Welcome to the third edition of the TBA podcast. It's been a little bit since we've recorded, but I'm excited to finally do this. And Roach, you've been pushing me to do this now for a little while, so it's about time that we get to kind of talk about this, and especially with the season 3 playoffs just about underway. We have week 17 almost done, 7 hours left. Week 17. Now, most of the prime games are kind of set. The UFC's got a lot to figure itself out. The NFC less so, but going to be entering another competitive playoffs, and I'm excited to be able to talk to you today.
Oh yeah, super excited. I always enjoy coming out here and being able to do this. I'd say coming out here like I'm flying out somewhere, but I'm still at my house. But you know what I mean. I enjoy coming and talking to you and being able to give some of the league members something extra. So it's nice to be here.
Yeah, breakdown for those of you listening today. We'll talk a little bit about some league stuff to start, not too much that we'll spend time on. And then we'll transition right away to essentially what it is power rankings with the AFC and the NFC side of things and the playoffs, and maybe give a Super Bowl prediction, or projection, I guess. Whatever you want to do. I would say go ahead and cut it, but I evidently don't know how to cut things, so I'm just going to have to sound like an idiot talking about projections.
Baby brain's real for the male too, buddy. Don't worry.
Okay, all right, that's fine. So that's gonna be the game plan for today. We'll start out first with the news that occurred earlier this week. We had both Jarrett and Dan decide to leave from a gold member perspective. I've known Dan for a long time. This felt like it was a long time coming. I know he talks about his fiance and buying a house and everything else, but Dan or Fluff has been looking to get out of the Madden seat now for a little while. So good for him. Excited for him. I know he'll be sticking around and just kind of commentating. I'm seeing him right now talking about the big news about a new college football game occurring in maybe 2021, probably a little bit later than that. So that's good. And then Jared has also been talking about leaving from a Madden perspective now for a little while. Hasn't been enjoying the game. I don't blame him in that regard. So it's tough. We'll be losing 2 gold members. That being said, it's going to be a bit of a transition period for the leadership aspect. You have myself, Chaz, Roach, and then Doug right now, 2 gold members, 2 silver members. I hope that we can transition to where we have back to 3 gold members and then 3 or 4 silver members. The idea is going to be that we try to find somebody that's going to be active if we need to advance at times, and also responding to trade requests, and then any league concerns as well. I bring this up because if everything goes right around late June, early July, I will also be out of commission for a little bit with the birth of my first child. So that's crossing fingers, everything goes well. But especially as we're trying to transition to Madden 22, I know it's a pivotal time, getting everything organized and set. It's going to be really important that we find some leadership that can make that happen. So understand if you're going to get a DM from us in the near future, the 4 of us will probably pick some guys that will have the league vote on to join in that group. So I think that's how the process will work. But it's going to be a very important off season to find new members to help out with that.
Yeah. I believe it will be a little bit of work, but I think we have some great members in the league, and I'm sure a few of them are definitely willing to step up and help out a little bit, to keep this league running smoothly, especially like you said in June or July when you're out of commission a little bit. So
yeah. All right, cool. Let's move over to the actual stuff that people want to hear about, which is the playoffs right now. The AFC side is insane. You have 9 teams essentially fighting for 7 playoff spots. 2 are going to be bumped out that are either going to finish 10-6 or 11-5. The addition of Ricky Bobby has made a huge impact on the AFC side of things. And I can assure you, if and when we have to start replacing people on the NFC side, I'm going to be looking for really competitive people, because there is a little bit of an imbalance. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, we have I love that we have so many competitive people. I think this is the most competitive TBA has ever been. I don't think it was intentional that the AFC ended up being more competitive right now than the other, but it's going to be a very big focus for me if and when we have to start replacing NFC guys, is that we start to get on that level, because right now you're looking at the NFC maybe having a couple 8-8 sneak in as the 6 and 7 seed, whereas an 8 and 9 seed is going to be 10-6 or 11-5. It's a very real possibility right now.
Yeah, and then looking over at the AFC, a 10-6 team will definitely be missing the playoffs. So that just kind of happens. I've been in leagues where that's happened, and I mean, look at real football that happened where.
Literally this past year, right? The
Yeah,
Bears
yeah.
did not deserve to make the playoffs at all, and You had it was the Dolphins that would have been way better in that situation. So I guess it is a good representation of real football. Whoever said TBA wasn't a sim league, this is a perfect example of it. But you have some insight as to who you think is going to be making it of the 7 teams from the AFC side of things. I think, right?
Yeah, so it looks like number one's going to be locked in. Obviously, Danny's undefeated. Looks like he's been rolling his way through the season. Seems a little terrifying that he's 15-0 when he usually doesn't always take every regular season game and do his best. So seeing him at 15-0 is a little concerning for the rest of us. And then of course, you got Mickey, who looks like he will be locking up that number 2, and if
Just
he
has to
wins
beat
week 17.
Big Z, who may or may not even schedule his game. So that
Yeah.
should be a pretty easy win for him.
Yeah, and then this is when it gets dicey. 3 through 7. It's looking like the Steelers are sitting at 11-5, who's going to be tied with me. But when I looked at everything, it's going to come down to, I believe, the third tie, which is going to be individuals that we have both played, who he beat and I lost to, which I
Does
lost to
Madden
the
actually
Bills.
take that into account though?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I found that out the hard way when I lost the first seed one season. Yeah, it
Okay.
definitely takes that into effect.
All right.
So I believe the Steelers should stay at 3. As far as 4, I believe that's going to be. Let's see here. I believe 4 should be the Jaguars.
Yep.
So they
Who
should
did
bump.
get they beat the Giants. It's going to be the game crapped out at the very end, but they beat the Giants, which will push them to 11-5.
Yes, which I believe actually will knock the Texans out of the playoffs, which would move the Bills which will just move everybody up. So move the Jaguars to the 4, the Bills to the 5, Chargers to the 6, and me to the 7 because the Bills and the Chargers will just have the win over me, which will stop any other tie breaking issue that may have. So I believe that's what we're looking at here. We're looking at the
Okay,
Raiders.
so it is pretty cut and simple, or cut dry.
Yeah, so I was starting to think who was going to make it over the Texans and the Ravens, because they're both going to be 10-6, but it looks like everyone's just going to be bumping up. If what I'm saying is correct, everybody will just be bumping up, and we're going to have 2 10-6 teams sitting out of the playoffs.
Okay. Yeah, and that's tough. Obviously, Texans Josh has been a critical member, been a few game of the weeks already this year, and it's kind of went back and forth. The AFC has been the AFC South, I should say, has been really competitive, and that's without Nika, who is one of a few people to beat me this year, who has done absolutely nothing this season. So it's kind of incredible to think about that. We had Jags, who is a newcomer, a friend of Corey, brought him on. He's been an awesome member. Loved having him, and then Josh, who's also added to this mix as well. And that's regardless of the Colts, who have been a top contender now for a while. It is crazy to think about that when the Colts is not like a top player in the league, and you have this kind of competition in the AFC. It's insane. So, and then Ricky Bobby, who you mentioned earlier, was added to the AFC kind of late in the season, made a tremendous run for the Ravens. It's going to make that AFC North division, I think, one of the hardest ones, if not the hardest, in TBA. And I've been saying now the AFC East was one of the best divisions. I think we have to make a serious contention as the AFC North is the best division in TBA. And I don't know. I don't even know if it's close anymore, to be honest.
Yeah. I'm happy he wasn't in the whole season, because I may not be sitting in the playoffs if that was the case, depending on what would have happened our first meeting. But yeah, the AFC North it's getting dicey, and I love it. It's great competition. I think the Steelers and the Ravens play much differently than me and themselves. So you never know what you're going to get out of those games. So I enjoy the competition, and like you said, Ricky Bobby coming in is just going to shake up the AFC even more, and giving him a full season. He really understands the game, and he understands how to build a team. So
Yes.
that's
Yeah,
going to
I
be
think that's going to be a big part.
Yeah, that's going to be big. So we'll
I
see
think
what we have in store for us after this.
we're going to see Ravens make some pretty big moves from a trade perspective. There was already whispers from TBA's Adam Schefter that they were maybe considering upgrading a quarterback. That might be an even greater influence now, being this close to the cusp of making the playoffs. I think the Dolphins are going to make some big moves as well with their team. There's discussions there, and we've seen Jacksonville already kind of be active. There was one of the bigger trades that have happened all of TBA was the move to get Ramon Henry. That's how I'm going to call him. I don't know how Jags wants to call him, but Ramon Henry, a wide receiver, and his rookie season has been incredible. Whether he was spamming him to make that trade seem like it was better than it actually was, I don't know. But I mean, that was a big difference in Jacksonville turning things around to the point where they are now set to be in the playoffs as the number 4 seed. So to break it down for everyone, we think we've narrowed it out as to how this is going to work out. It's number 1, obviously, is the 16-0, likely 16-0 Raiders. Number 2 is going to be the likely 12-4 Patriots, so long as they beat Zems, or I assume Zems isn't even going to play his game because that's what he does. Then we're going to have we have the Steelers as number 3 seed at the moment. You believe, right? Steelers at number 3 and Texans number 4. I'm sorry,
Texans will bump out.
Jacksonville number 4.
Mm-hmm. And
do you know if Jacksonville has tiebreakers over the Steelers at all?
I'm not sure.
I can pull up their schedule right now and check, but I don't believe the two played one another.
Played. Yeah.
So that would go down to those third string stuff, and I don't. You knew it. I don't know it. It's fine. I'm not positive. So we'll just say for right now, hypothetically, Steelers as the number 3 seed, Jaguars as number 4 seed. Then we have 5 seed Bills, 6 seed Chargers and Corey, and you would round up the 7 seed. So that would make the AFC first round matchup your TBA season 1 champion Mickey against you. We would then have Steelers. I think it would be the Steelers versus Corey, and then it would be Bills versus Jacksonville. I would kind of like to see the Jaguars make the number 3 seed, just so we could have Jaguars versus Corey as the two that kind of came in with one another, or Corey introduced him into the league. But instead, we might not get. I mean, that is quality competition. I'm the one who does all the different spreads throughout the week. I don't know if I'm making any of those more than 4 or 5 points. It's that's how close it is for every one of those games.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. It's gonna be a fun wild card weekend. So we'll see how they play out. But are you wanting to go through each and every one of these? What we obviously think the games are going to be.
I think we should do the AFC side first because I think the NFC is going to take. I think it's going to take less creativity to be able to identify how that might end up going. But I think there's legitimate conversation from the AFC side of things. So yeah, I think let's go ahead and break down those matchups. Let's start with you versus Mickey as the likely 2 versus 7 seed. How do you see that one playing out?
I feel extremely good about that game. I've had one hell of a time trying to win a Madden playoff game since Madden 21 began. Luckily for me, I have not lost to Mickey. I'm 3-0 against him in this Madden.
Ooh,
that being said, it is playoffs. You never know. Luckily, my team has played much better towards the end of the season, so the morale and the momentum will play somewhat of a factor. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. It's definitely going to be a good game, but I'm gonna have to back myself and say that I'll move forward and get my first playoff win of Madden 21.
Yeah, Mickey does not have Lamar Jackson anymore. That was a mid-season trade with Saints, with Chaz. It got a lot of different pieces out of that. I just played Mickey recently, lost that game. It kind of came down to a boneheaded throw by me, but also great defense and great offense throughout the whole time. I've watched a lot of Mickey's games just because he's a talented player. And I do feel like there's times where he's prone to throwing it deep or throwing it into coverage. I think specifically back to when he played, I believe it was the Ravens he played earlier this year. And there was 4 or 5 times where I'm like, what the hell is that kind of choice? And it was one of those things where it's credit to Mickey, quite honestly, because he hardly ever makes those throws. Like, as a good player, he just never does. So to see him make those decisions, it's tough. Do you feel like that's going to be part of your game plan to doing that, or are you just trying to take away the short aspect, or you feel like you're beating it from an offensive perspective? Like, if you're picking yourself to win, what's the part of your game that you feel most confident in, as opposed to how Mickey normally plays against others?
I mean, I definitely don't think I'm going to go out there and score tons of points. He has a great defense, and in New England, could possibly be snowing. My game plan would definitely be to try to control the clock, move the ball, keep him off the field, limit mistakes, because at the end of the day, that's how you win Madden playoff games. Is whoever makes the least amount of mistakes when it comes to two good Madden players. But I'm just going to try to keep the ball as much as possible and limit mistakes. Maybe force him to make one or two, but that would definitely be the plan. But that's most likely my plans for all the games. You know, my Browns offense isn't the most explosive, so just being able to get methodically move down the field, get some time off the clock. I trust my defense, so my offense just doing what it can and limiting mistakes is what I'm going to try to do throughout the whole playoffs. So.
All right. Well, I'll tell you this. You didn't convince me. I think Vegas is going to probably have the Patriots favored by a little bit in this one. But the fact that they are 3-0 might end up being put in the write-up. That's very possible that the Browns could be included in that. All right. So you have Browns winning. I have Patriots winning in that 3-7 matchup. I'm sorry, 2-7. Let's move over to 3-6, which we think is going to be Steelers versus Chargers. It could be Jacksonville versus the Chargers, which would be my ideal one. But right now it's looking like Steelers versus Chargers. How do you see that one going on? I mean, obviously, Corey, the big news is that he's kind of improved from his record. I think he's really refined what he's looking for in his game. But how do you see that matchup playing
out? I believe that the Steelers will win that game. I think that they play sound football. Every time I've played the Steelers, I feel like I've gotten out to a great start to where I am handling the game, and I feel like I handle the game for 3.5 quarters, and somehow I've lost half the games I've played against him. He continuously, no matter what the score is, he will continuously keep playing Madden, and I feel like if he goes down at all, he plays even better. And he plays clean football. Obviously, that's why he's won the division 2, maybe every season. He's won a lot of the time. He's been in the playoffs, and he doesn't make many mistakes. That's why I think he'll win. Corey is a good Madden player, and he's continuously gotten better. But I think he takes a little too many shots, and I think he will make mistakes in that game, which will lead to a Steelers victory.
Yeah, the problem with being so smart in Madden, which Corey is, I think Corey is hands down one of the smartest Madden players that I know, is that you tend to read the game and kind of don't see the situation, right? And I think there's a difference, and maybe people understand that, or maybe it's confusing, but like there are times you can take the shots, you read the cover 3 coverage, and I have this cover 3 beater I want to do. When in reality, just taking your 4 yards, going on to the next play, getting a 2nd and 5, 3rd and 6, whatever it is, and making it an easier down distance as opposed to putting yourself in a bad spot for Madden to fuck you, because that happens all the time. It's a game after all. Is one of those situational awareness things that I think Corey can still continue to work on. I mean, like Corey is one of the best runners in the league, and we have a lot of really good runners as well. And we'll talk about them further in the AFC. So to see him not really have a running back that he can reliably feel good with makes things a little bit worrisome for me, because then I do agree with you. You tend to be a little aggressive. This goes to anybody. You tend to be more aggressive when you're passing the ball, when you have less of a foundation to run on. I mean, Ronald Jones was one of the best running backs in the league for a reason. I mean, Corey made him that way. He was good. And I don't know if the combination of Anthony McFarland and the rookie 93 speed guy, I think his name is Woodley. Woodley. I don't know if that does the same type of stuff. You look at the yards per carry average right now for both those guys, and it's nothing impressive. So I don't know. I mean, like if the Steelers can shut down Quez Watkins, which is like the slot guy that the Chargers use quite often, that might be a done and dusted type of deal for that one. I think I'm picking the Steelers, especially if there is conditions involved, like weather-wise, because you talked about with the Patriots, it could be snowing, it could be raining or snowing as well with Pittsburgh, and that would lean more towards the Steelers game. But again, that one's going to be a close one that I could see going either way.
Yeah, definitely. And just building a little bit on, like you said, Corey is extremely smart Madden player, right? He understands the game. He understands where individuals are supposed to be, right?
Yes.
But at the end of the day, a lot of those things, sometimes I feel like he doesn't take where the user can possibly be into consideration, as well as different audibles that may have happened. For example, there's a lot of cover 3 beaters in Madden. What I've done, secret for everybody in the league is I move my corners to deep halves. They do not get beat like they do if they're deep thirds as much. And that's not something that you're going to see as far as where they're lined up at. And I feel like he doesn't always look at that. I think he just has a play that he thinks is going to work, and he does it. And it will work a good amount of the time, but I think that could cost him a turnover or two in this playoff game, which like I said, I think will
which
be
is the difference, right? Like
yeah.
you win the turnover game, that's the difference. I can see that. I understand that. I'll tell you this: if you told me Corey's not looking for the shot plays, is just going to go every single play trying to get the most yards the most yards that make sense while still holding on the ball, he will win that game. I just don't know if I just don't know if that will happen.
Yes.
When you're sitting at 11-5 in this AFC conference after a couple of years of not doing that, we might be seeing the corner turning for Corey. So I'm that might be the one game I'm most interested in. Sorry, because I think you're losing, Roach. I'll just root against you the whole time, like everyone does against my Packers. That one might be the one I'm most interested in watching is that Chargers versus Steelers game. Let's transition over to Jacksonville versus Buffalo. Again, we are assuming Jacksonville has now claimed the number 4 seed. Will bump out the Texans from making the playoffs altogether, which is crazy because they had the lead-in for the division. So Jacksonville facing Buffalo. Bobo, I mean, we never really got a chance to talk about this. We did in DMs. I don't think I've ever felt more thoroughly decimated from playing Madden. And I play BLD twice a season every year, and I get my ass whipped by BLD almost twice a season every year. I have never felt as thoroughly destroyed as Bobo did in that game. Rodgers threw for 1 incompletion, and it was just because he forced a pass that he shouldn't have. Otherwise, it was these little bubble screens, the stupid little direct in that you only have that audible because you have a hot route master like Rodgers does or whatever else. And it was just like a tailor-made game script to just completely kick my ass, and it worked. And I'm like, oh shit, he's got it. Bobo's got it. That was the first time Bobo's beat me. We had played a couple of years. We had played last year a couple times and never had a shot. I'm like, oh, this is it, right? And then proceeds to lose to the Steelers horribly, loses to the Lions horribly, loses to the Texans, and loses to the Patriots. So I don't know what it was. Like, he got all high and mighty that he's able to get a win over me for the first time, and then has a 4-game losing streak.
yeah, exactly. I feel like he may have been a little too high on his horse there after the win against you, and probably didn't take anyone else seriously. So that's definitely probably the biggest losing streak he's had of all Madden history. Coming into a playoff,
those are all
1-4
teams. Right. I mean, that was a crazy stretch too, to include me in that. And then you had Ravens, who he lost to as well. That was a stretch of probably, I think, 6 games where you're talking about the best that TBA has to offer. And to get one out of those against me, that's great, but I just don't. I don't. Yours, friend, you know him better than I do. You are now the only member of your group, which would include Nika and Colts, Colts is Nika, the same person, and Bobo, to have yet to get a victory off of me. It felt very clear that Bobo really wanted that one. But what happens when you give away your whole scheme or plan? You show up for one game and then don't show up for other ones. I don't know how to read that situation.
Yeah, I just feel it's being a little overconfident. I'm not totally sure how he lost 4 straight games after beating you. I understand losing half of those games, like you said, against great opponents. It's going to happen. But that could be big for morale purposes. I'm not sure how much that affects players, but I feel like coming into a playoffs 1-4 in your last 5 games could have some type of effect on your players. But
he got 2 wins, so he's coming in as 2-4. Right, he ended up with wins over Bengals and Vikings, which is people you would have thought he would have beat. I want to point to the fact that he lost only by 7 to Mickey, who they play each other in the division, right? Patriots, Bills, all the time. He beat Mickey in week 1 of that game. I know they go back and forth. That, I think, to many people will be one of those, oh, okay, so he only loses by 7. This is a pretty legitimate stuff. But there's a point of being familiar with your opponent. I'll talk about this on the NFC side of thing with the Lions. You're so familiar with that opponent that you play him well. This is a matchup against the Jacksonville guy that he's never played him before. I don't think he played the Texans guy before, and that was part of that 4-game losing streak where he lost 43-37.
And the
I
Ravens.
wonder if not being familiar with Jacksonville could end up hurting Bobo. What do you think about that? Oh, you still there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Sorry, broke out a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, you said not being familiar with the Jaguars.
Yep.
If that will affect the game, yeah, no, I feel like it could affect the game 100%. He's actually told me that after he lost to the Ravens, he told me that he usually needs to play somebody once and then he can figure them out. So hopefully that is not the case with the Jaguars. Well, you will be seeing the Bills heading back to Buffalo a little early. So we'll see.
What's your prediction? What's your prediction on that one?
I don't know much about the Jaguars. To make the best prediction, so I would just have to go with Bobo because I know he's a solid Madden player, and I don't know much about the Jaguars, to be honest.
I think I'm going Bills as well, with the understanding, and you better damn well make sure he's listening to this so I can get him fired up. If he comes with the same game plan that he did against me, he's winning at least this game. I don't know if he beats Mickey and Danny because they'll have their own game plans and have things change up. You can't scout them. Like, they're just going to be different from game to game. I think you can scout this one. So he better take it seriously because it's going to be an embarrassment if he loses this one. I don't think he's won a playoff game through the first 3 seasons, right? Because he lost the Colts last year. I don't know. Maybe he won one in season 1.
He beat me one of the seasons.
Okay. All right. So he won in season 1.
10-6.
Yeah. Okay. Real barn burner, that one. I don't know. I'm just like, this is set up for him to be very successful as long as the ego doesn't get in the way. And I don't think it will because Jags is a really good opponent, so he should be taking it seriously. But I'm still confused as to how he can lose 4 straight. And I was talking to him after the Lions game, like, what the hell happened there? I don't know how he can lose 4 straight after demoralizing me the way he did. So, all right.
Yeah, I think he'll be ready to roll. We'll see.
With those predictions, we would then have Danny versus you under your one. I think that Vegas one might be close to double digits. Is that going to be embarrassing to you?
Oh no, it was double digits before in another league, I believe, which didn't work out for Vegas. Just to let you know. And last playoffs, I lost to Danny. Well, that's I guess it's more of an opinion of myself, but I believe there's not a holding penalty that knocks me back to have to punt the ball. I feel like I beat him. I feel like he won with a holding penalty. But I haven't played Danny all season, and Danny is Danny, so you know.
And Danny has let you know through via Bengals earlier today how much you suck, right? Which is a funny thing. Danny's just firing shots at Bengals for no reason. Well, it was meant to be for you. Okay. All right. So I think I'm taking that one pretty clearly in that matchup. We'll move on because I didn't pick you to win the first one anyway over Mickey. So we'll come back to that.
We could just go Pats over Danny for the sake of the conversation, just because I'm not gonna.
Okay, so all right, so we'll just say for the sake of the conversation, you lose to Mickey, so that would mean that Danny would be facing. I think he's facing Corey because I think Corey could beat the Steelers, but you were saying the Steelers win, so we'll just go ahead and we'll just say that Danny is going to be facing Bills then, all right? Because that was Bills over Jacksonville. How do you see that one playing out?
Oh goodness! I see it being extremely close. I feel like Danny. So I think Danny has beat him. I feel like they've played once, maybe twice in this Madden, but overall, Bobo has gotten the best of them. It's gonna be a less than one score. So I'd go Danny. But I think it's going to be close. I think he'll drive. There's going to be a drive at the end of the game to win, And I believe if Danny has the ball, he'll win the game. And I believe if Bobo has the ball to drive down the field to win, he won't be able to score. So I believe Danny pulls that one off.
I'll take
by a
Danny
small
plus
amount.
7 in that one. I think Danny wins by a little more than the score. The reason for this, the way to beat Danny, and this is for I've known for 3+ years, 4+ years now, from as a Madden competitor, you run the ball, and we know the Bills can run the ball, right? That's what they're generally most effective, except when playing me and devastating me. So you normally run the ball. I think it's pretty easy as somebody like Danny who's played in so many of these games to feel confident and know what you want to do against an opponent, as opposed to the other way around where you're trying to beat somebody that you don't feel great about off of one scheme, one strategy as to running the ball. So great, Rodgers throws the ball like he does against the Packers. Okay, that's possible. I just don't think Danny will allow that to happen at all. So it's going to be a situation where can Bobo's defense stop Danny? And the answer is no. Nobody's defense can stop Danny. I just don't see that happening. So I'll take the Raiders by 7 or more points in that one, because I just think it's going to be a game that just gets out of hand on one turnover. That's all it would take.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. One turnover, one stop can send Danny off. Can definitely make him beat individuals by way more than one possession if he can get one turnover or so on you. But yeah, I'll also take Danny, but I think it's going to be less than 7.
Okay. So then we have Mickey versus the Steelers, I think is kind of where we're leaning towards. So what's your thoughts on that matter?
I'm gonna go with I think Mickey will be able to pull out the win. The Steelers to me is just one of the most interesting individuals that I've ever played in Madden. Like when I'm telling you that I literally feel like I've completely dominated the game and lost half of the times that I've played against them. Like I'm pretty sure one of the games we played this season, I was going for the first down to win, and I threw. But it was about around 2 minute warning. I go for the first down to win the game, and throw 4 straight pick sixes and lose by 20-some points.
Yeah, that just sounds like you being a bad player. That's not a credit to the Steelers.
But this is all. He also has come back he's come back to either win or make it close in every single game. And I just don't. I don't know if he doesn't. He's just not playing, and then he's like, okay, let me play Madden now, or what it is. But he's an interesting Madden player, and I feel like he is better throughout the game. But I think Mickey's just a solid individual, and I feel like he'll just be a little too much. But I'll also take Mickey by probably around 5.
Yeah,
More than a field goal, less than a touchdown.
It's frustrating because if Corey beats the Steelers, Corey faces Danny, and I think that one goes. Well, Corey plays Danny all the time, but I think that one goes in the favor of Danny pretty easily, and then that sets up the Bills playing the Patriots, and I really want to see that game with the playoffs on the line. I would actually feel confident picking Bobo in that sense. I think he could finally get the job done. They seem to split often in the regular season. I would feel confident about that. But when you're talking about the Steelers versus Mickey, I just don't know. Like, it's a different level player. Mickey normally plays really smart. Reminds me a lot of how I played last year, where you're just not making a lot of mistakes and taking advantage of the mistakes that happen to you. And this is a game of Madden. Mistakes happen all the time. But if you're the one that's generally making less of them, you have a good shot at doing that. So I think that's where Mickey ends up winning that one, and it would set up a stage for Danny versus Mickey, which we've seen plenty of times now. I think it was split, right? The two faced one another in season 1. Mickey got that one, and then in season 2 we had. Who was season 2? Obviously BLD won. BLD beat Mickey. BLD beat Mickey in this with the safety.
Yes.
Yes.
That's right.
So, I think it's time where Danny finally does get that victory in that situation. But we've now seen it back-to-back times now where the Raiders have lost. So, I don't know. I don't know if you saw that comment earlier in the chat. I don't know if it was today or yesterday. Jake's talking about how great the Raiders team is. I disagree. I don't think it's that good. I've actually seen Danny have way better teams. So it's more of a compliment to Danny's team building aspect that he's done way better. And yes, they're going to get younger and stuff, but this team is not like easy, or it's not like insurmountable. Last year's Bengals, my team, with Lamar and Saquon Barkley and Yannick, that was a pretty insurmountable team. I don't think Danny's team is that way yet, so I think they definitely could be beat. but he's just getting better, more confident in Madden. I think this is going to be the time that Danny makes it to the championship.
Yeah, I agree 100%. To me, Danny is like a train, right? If he's on the tracks, you are not going to stop Danny.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Nothing you can put in front of Danny that's going to stop him. Not one thing. But if one of those tires slips off the track, that's when you're going to be able to come out and beat him. That's what we've seen with any loss that he's had in the playoffs. But if you cannot get him to feel uncomfortable or stop his game at all, he's just gonna keep piling it on.
All right, you good with switching over to the NFC? It sounds like we're both thinking Danny does make it to the Super Bowl from the AFC side.
Yep.
All right, so from the NFC, less competitive, unfortunately. We had Quifa PS4 break conveniently right around the time he was playing both BLD and myself. It has not been fixed. So you're losing a guy that made it to the NFC Championship in Season 1, and instead we are getting most of the Chaz and Friends division as rounding out the bottom half of the NFC playoffs. BLD sitting at 14-2 claimed a victory over the Packers, which ended up being essentially the tiebreaker match for that. Ended up losing to Mickey too, so it didn't matter. He has the number 1 seed all but locked up. My victory over the Bears has guaranteed the number 2 seed locked up. And then we more or less have Tendy as the number 3 seed locked up. He has to just beat Clyde, who has been normally unavailable. It was looking like a force win. I would imagine if they play, the result is still the Seahawks end up winning. So you have your top 3 seeds already set there. And then by default, number 4 seed is already set from Chaz as well. He could maybe sneak into the 3 seed if Tendy loses. I just don't see that happening. So the division's all set from the NFC and it has been for a while. You also have the number 5 seed set because the Lions have not been able to knock off the Packers. If they could just win one of those games, maybe it'd be a conversation for the NFC North. But again, for the 3rd straight time, the Lions will be the number 5 seed in the NFC. I want to point out one of the games that the Bills lost was by tremendous fashion to the Lions, 51-14 in Week 13 during that 4-game win streak. So this is going to be, again, the conversation we get to a little bit further, but I think the Lions are poised to make a playoff run. Yeah, the Vikings currently sitting at 6 seed and the Falcons sitting at the 7 seed. If the Falcons were to lose, and I think we have that game yet to play. If the Falcons were to lose to your AFC North brethren and the Bengals, you would set the stage for either the Falcons or Panthers to make it in the playoffs as that final spot at 7 and 9. I don't know. I'd have to check where you'd be, like, what's the standings for that. But that's kind of how the NFC playoffs is shaping up right now.
Yeah. So it's definitely looking like that.
The Falcons are the tiebreaker of the Panthers regardless. So Falcons are guaranteed the number 7 seed. So it doesn't really matter. They beat the Falcons or they beat the Panthers twice. Okay. So that being said, you're looking at number 2 for 7 matchup between the Packers and Falcons. I think I heard BLD talk about how good the Falcons are. Like, he thinks the Falcons are pretty good. That being said, I feel fairly confident in myself that I can get the win. I think that would be, instead of doing a point spread, we would just do an over-under for points scored in that Falcons-Packers game. That feels like a pretty big difference in talent on that. Do you see any way that the Falcons upset the Packers myself in this contest?
The Falcons, it's been the same individual, correct?
Yeah. He made it to the playoffs last year as well.
Okay, so you played him week 1 this season?
Yes.
And then he went and played BLD right after that, and he lost that game. He lost you by 2 and BLD by 8. I did play in week 5. It looks like he has it in him to win big games. But I don't know if he's at that level to be consistent enough to get that done in the playoffs. So yeah, I would definitely go with you, Joe. And possibly
I think that game was like we played it and then it kind of cut out at some point. I don't remember only winning by 2 points. So I think that game was a little bit more dynamic than that, but I'm not positive on it.
It seemed like he lost to Tendy by 1. BLD was close. I don't know how their matchup. Yeah, look, it seems to me like he can be a solid Madden player, but being consistent seems like the issue. So you can't be consistent and win playoff games. So it's going to be a big bad Packers Sending the Falcons home.
All right, so then we'll move over to Tendy, likely number 3 seed against the Vikings. The second year, this Vikings made the playoffs in season 1 as well. I think as the 7th or 6th seed as well. That's a Tyreek Hill, Odell Beckham, 90 keeper quarterback, and then a really good Delvin Cook as well offense. I mean, like the Vikings offense is absolutely insane.
Oh wow.
It's going to be interesting. Like Tendy's game is all about using Saquon Barkley and running the ball really effectively and doing that. But if you're able to stop it, I don't know if like you can scheme up a way to stop the Vikings offense if you haven't played them a number of times. Jason, who's a good friend of mine and the coworker, just the nicest person in the world, can be pretty good at this game. Our last game that we played was really close, 35-28, and it wasn't like I was just sandbagging or anything like that. I was trying to win, and I could not get my passing game going. Like it ended up working out pretty well for him. I think if he stops Saquon Barkley and the running game, he has a chance to win. I just don't know if that happens.
Yeah. The only thing I'd feel confident on would be betting an under in this game. I'm not totally sure exactly who can pull this off. Like you said, I think both of them can play great Madden. It's just who's going to be more consistent, who's going to make less mistakes.
You can't use the same analysis for every person.
It's good. At the end of the day in the playoff, I think BLD has proven the least mistakes will win you Super Bowls. So,
if I'm reading this correctly, like Tendy has not played a game in here in like 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, because the NFC West has just been a division of I'll just give this force wins away, whether by PS4 or hotel scheduling or just anything else like that. So I don't think he's actually played a game in a little while. I'll say the 11-4 record, 12-4 likely record isn't one that I feel like is a super strong one. I don't think he's the very clear number 3 seed, but I do think he can handle. I think he can come away with this win.
Yeah, I'm just going to roll the dice and go with the underdog and take the.
Okay. Well, all right. For argument's sake, I'll root for that too. I like my NFC North division foes. I'll go with the Vikings as well. Can you hear me?
I think you talk. By show. Yeah. Joe.
Can you hear me?
Hello. Joe. Can you hear me now? Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
Perfect.
Cool. Continue on.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on. It's just tech issues.
Okay. I'll go with the Vikings as well then, just for argument's sake here. Then we have Lions versus Saints, and obviously Saints acquired Lamar Jackson earlier this season, have finally risen to the top of the Chaz and Friends division by more or less default. I think this is going to be a pretty clear win for the Lions, and the Lions are really gunning for an opportunity to take on the Packers and maybe get that elusive win over their divisional foe. I think I take the Lions by double digits in this one, and I know Chaz might be listening. Not meant to bury you, Chaz. I just think Lions is motivated, and there's not much you can do to stop him.
Yeah, he's a solid mound player, that's for sure, and he's improved. And when someone's a good mound player and they're improving, that they're going to put in the time to win playoff games. I think he'll be too much. I think the Lions will be too much for the Saints.
Yeah, the thing about Lions, like when we played season 1, it was very clear he's just going off of Madden school. This is what Madden school tells him to do in this formation, and I'm just going to run out of these plays and everything else like that. And yeah, the stat compiling for Darius Geis is a thing and a concern. We had the unfortunate suspension earlier this year with this quarterback, but I mean Darius Geis has got a lot of yards and numbers against teams that I don't think, like if he's playing in the AFC, doesn't have like half of that. Now he gets like 1,200, not 1,800. I think that's just kind of part of what you're able to do when you're on the NFC side of things. But he does run the ball really well, and the more we've played, the less we've went away from the Mad School stuff, which is good because I know what Mad School is and how to stop it and like what you're trying to do with that. And as a result, our game's been more competitive. So it is a matter of which defense ends up winning out in our last matchup. I felt like my defense was able to outperform his. But I think when you're playing guys like like Chaz or Vikings or Falcons, just doing what you did to get here generally is able to do it. I don't like unless there's some drastic change or Chaz decides to really grind his way on YouTube or really looks up a scheme. I just don't know how it significantly changes much. So that's where I'm kind of like, okay, this is going to be a win for the Lions. So if all goes the way we anticipate it going, or at least the way we talked about, we have Vikings facing Cowboys in the divisional round of the playoffs. That will be another one that Vegas just puts the over/under score for, and not the spread for.
Yeah. It's I'm gonna go with the Cowboys.
I think Jason will be very happy to have made it to the divisional round. To knock off the Seahawks in that one will be good for him. I don't know if that does occur, but that's kind of where we're leaning. So we'll just say BLD gets the win on that one. Our season 2 champion probably contains and moves on to the conference round. But then you have the Packers versus Lions, which I think will be probably the most watched game of any of those divisional matchups. Again, the Lions have not beat the Packers now 3 seasons, so that's 6 games. We played once in the playoffs too, so 7 games, I think. This last one wasn't that close. It was not that close. There was a lot of picks that were forced. My user got involved a little bit there, but I still can't score offensively against them. So which defense do you think wins, the Packers or Lions, is which way you're dictating it. I think there is going to be a point in the near future where the Lions go ahead and get a victory against the Packers, but I do not want it to be in the playoffs. I do not want to allow that in the playoffs. So that's where I will do whatever it takes to make sure it's not in the playoffs. The Lions finally get off the schneid.
Yeah, I'll be more confident in this in picking the Lions in a playoff game against you when he gets it done in the regular season. I think there's too much pressure in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, there's going to be too much pressure. If you're not, I just don't think you just flip a switch and beat somebody that you haven't beaten. You beat them in the playoffs. So I'm going to go once again with the big bad Packers.
All right, so that sets the stage for the ultimate rivalry. I think in all TBA is BLD versus anybody, but certainly BLD versus me. We have now we had the one instance in season 1 where that matchup never took place. Season 2 playoffs, it was a 2-point conversion, a ballsy 2-point conversion for the Packers to go up ahead with a minute left, and unfortunately the Cowboys were able to drive down, taking advantage of a stupid mid-blitz call by me, running in the touchdown to win the game and go on to the Super Bowl and win it versus Mickey. I have beaten him in the regular season once. I've lost in the regular season once, so I'm 1-2 versus the Cowboys. I'm going to be game planning something very different than what I've been doing all year. I think that's how I have to get better because I think I've stagnated as a player. But that being said, BLD is the best there is, and I just don't know how many times you can feel confident beating them. I'm not Weasel. I don't have a guaranteed stack team that can just do bubble screens the whole time. We got to do something different. So I'll do what I can, but I think I might lean towards BLD regardless here.
Yeah. Yep. You don't beat somebody that good who won't beat himself. So
right.
Yeah. BLD all the way. It's I see it being a close one. But
if the spread was set at 4.5, which way are you going on that? Favoring the Cowboys.
Packers.
Okay. All right. So I think
it's around a field goal.
Okay. All right. So that sets the stage to end the podcast here with the Super Bowl between the Cowboys and Raiders, potentially the undefeated Raiders, Cowboys facing them again. And if the rivalry between the Packers and Cowboys or BLD and Joe was not big enough, the rivalry between Danny and BLD definitely is. I think from the totality of them playing, Danny has definitely been competitive, but it has went the way of BLD often as of late. And you know that BLD is making his team and team building with the event that he might have to play Danny someday. Like if there's anybody that's prepared to play Danny's team, it's BLD. So which way do you see that colossal of a matchup going?
I'm gonna go, and this may be a little crazy to say. I'm gonna go since 1972 Miami Dolphins. The Las Vegas Raiders will win the Super Bowl.
No. You're forgetting a pretty large stretch of Madden history where we had a lot of undefeated teams win. Who was that again?
Okay, well, we're just gonna scratch.
Oh, we're going to
Scratch that.
scratch
We're
my
gonna talk
6
about. We're
consecutive
gonna talk
years of
about.
being undefeated
We're
and
gonna,
winning. Fine. Okay, sounds good.
we're gonna talk about.
You
this
had your
season.
opportunity. Sounds like salty stuff happening where you could have knocked off that streak. You could have ended it, and then you had to have Tyree Jackson fumble on a Hail
I
Mary.
had to have Tyree Jackson on my team, dude. That's what I do here.
All right, so you are under the impression the Raiders will complete the undefeated season and knock off BLD in the Super Bowl. I think you're wrong. It's not going to happen. I think BLD comes away with this victory. I think BLD wins by, I would say, a field goal. I do think it comes down to whoever's the ball last, and I'm going to
Yeah.
pick BLD to win his second consecutive Super Bowl and third in TBA history.
Yeah, I think if it's close, I think BLD will get the. Well, I think he can win, and I think he could. But seeing him 15-0 and continuously winning is hard to. It's gonna be hard to stop him. So it's either gonna be a more than a touchdown off Danny or a close win going towards BLD. But I'm taking the Raiders.
All right, I'm going Cowboys. And of course, TBA stick along with us as we go on throughout this. We'll have the game of the weeks going on for most of them, for every single week for that, for throughout the playoffs, getting your points, and then we'll be adding the points on for your regular season games played as well at the end of the off season. So that does it for us in episode number 3 of the TBA podcast. Thank you for sticking around with us and enjoy the playoffs, which are about to begin.
Good luck, everybody.